Good morning, Bethany. I had the countdown going and that went by quick. Um, yeah, let us know you're on this morning. I don't see anybody just yet, but there we go. Jenny, first one I seen. Sometimes it's delayed, so maybe someone else beat you to it, but on my screen, you were the very first one. So good morning, Jenny, this morning. See what else who logs in. Of course, we're back in the school year, which means the kids are back at school. And so I don't know if you guys remember before when Darlene and I were doing soap during the school year, but she's running to take our youngest two to school. And so she will be delayed for a minute and be with us. Good morning, Rod. Good seeing you this morning. Um, so yeah, uh, we'll see how it logs in today. It's been beautiful. I love this kind of weather. It's been a little cooler, of course. It's like I was telling somebody the other day, it seemed like our whole summer was just weird. Spring was weird. It was quite cold for quite a while, and then we had a bunch of rain for a while, and then it got hot, and then boom. I feel like instantly in August, everything just shifted, and the nights are cooler, the sun's going down earlier. Um, Kids are in school, and it goes so fast. And so we're actually in hoodie football season. Football season. Tonight's my son's first, not his first, but the school's first varsity game tonight at LCS. So I'm excited about that. I love football season, and so we get to watch them play. And so I'm excited, and yeah, just good stuff. So my wife, she'll be here shortly. My sons are scrambling around this morning. She's trying to tell them we have to go early. I had soap this morning. We have to get to the school, and yeah, she'll be here. So good morning, Lisa and sis, good seeing you this morning. Lisa, it was so nice to meet you and Larry the other day at Irma's party at church. Uh, such sweet people. I mean, I know we didn't get to talk much, but I could just see your genuineness in your heart. So it's so great to meet you and Larry. So glad we got to know you through soap before that, and thank you for being here this morning. Um, Margaret, good morning as well. Um, sure, this big thump. We have our dog, and we don't talk about her very often. We talk about her on soap every now and then, but yeah, she's a big baby. But um, yeah, I love where we're at. I love the Old Testament. I won't start reading until Darling gets here, but when I was doing my credentials, my ministerial classes, Old Testament survey is one of my favorite parts of that. I just love going back into God's Word, and there's so many great stories. I mean, the Old Testament makes a great action movie if you were to put it on film, and they have done some movies, of course, like Moses, and there's episode they had on Amazon for a while called House of David. Kind of like they're doing with The Chosen, but they're doing the story of David. That was really cool. They kind of see some of that. Some of it's kind of all right. Well, there's not a storyline in there, but it's just cool to see the Bible kind of like come to life visually. And there she is. I just
made it.
Talk about how we are back
to crazy school schedule.
Yeah. Good morning, Amanda. How you doing? Yeah. And talk about football season. We're back in.
We are.
So
I will be changing into my football gear later.
Yeah, I'll probably be changing out of my gear and then back into it.
It's supposed to be cool tonight, yeah.
So, yeah. So football season's crazy because you can be like in a t-shirt one day, a hoodie another day.
We've had games where it's like 95, like at 6, 7 p.m. while the boys start playing, it's like 95. And then we've been in games where it's 35.
And it's snowing.
And raining and yeah.
So.
Hi, sis.
Yeah. You want to talk for a second? I got one more thought. I was going to wrap up. Darlene's going to take it away.
All right. I need to know how many pumpkin spice fans there are. Good morning, Jenny. Thank you. I was talking to Pastor Amanda on Sunday, and she was all excited about pumpkin spice season. I don't really drink pumpkin spice. I'm a more of a, well, I don't drink. I like apple cider. I don't drink like an apple flavored drink. Does that make sense? Just like if it's hot cider, I like that. But I love like caramel drinks. I don't know that that's really fall. I drink that all year round. So it's not fall specific, but now I did see that Big B, I got Ava a Big B drink the other day, and they had some new maple something for fall. But so how many of you guys are pumpkin spice fans? You like pumpkin pie? You like pumpkin? I I don't know, pumpkin danishes, pumpkin coffee, pumpkin candles. Some people get all the pumpkin stuff out because they love it. I don't know. I just don't even eat pumpkin pie. Eric likes pumpkin pie, but I don't make it, so he has to wait till he goes to his family's house to get it.
Yeah, my grandma made. I've said before, so my grandma made the best pies. And I mean, there's pies, but then there's my grandma's pies, and everybody in my family knows that. And like whenever we talk about pies, like yeah, it's not grandma's pie. And
Grandma passed away
she
what
always told me,
5, 6, 7, maybe
yeah.
8
And
years
then
ago. I
the
don't know.
last, I don't know, 7, 10 years before that, she kind of stopped making pies as she got older.
It was a lot of work. Yeah.
But none of us learned how to make them from her. We should have. She used to tell me all the time. She's like, if you knew what was in it, you wouldn't like it as much, maybe. And I think because back then they used like lard and
Lard
different
for their
things,
crust. That's probably
it was such, yeah. So I probably, yeah. Anyways, yeah, such good
Yeah.
stuff.
I think your grandma's favorite pie that I ever had was her fresh strawberry pie with real homemade whipped cream on it. That was my favorite. Pumpkin cookies with nuts. Now I love pumpkin bread. I used to make a pumpkin cookie. That was pretty good. It was like pumpkin oatmeal. I don't know. It's been a long time since I made them. Those were good. So I do like some pumpkin things. Just I don't know. Lisa likes pumpkin. Sis likes pumpkin pie with as long as it's covered with
Jeremiah
whipped cream.
Mauricio hates it. He was talking
Yeah,
about
I
it.
hope for Thanksgiving and stuff because I know she always makes a big dinner. Hopefully, she makes him an apple pie or something so that he can have dessert.
He likes pumpkin pie. Jeremiah does not like pumpkin spice stuff, drinks. Yeah,
he said he liked pumpkin pie.
He said I love pumpkin pie. He goes, but
Oh.
that pumpkin spice stuff. He's like, I just can't do it.
Yes, I love. So, Amanda, I have to tell you, you would probably. I don't know if you like cheesecake or not. I made a couple years ago. I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, but I made an apple. I usually I like apple crisp. Like I'm not an apple. I'm just not a huge pie person. I don't know. I like the crisp.
You didn't have all my grandma's pies.
I did. We were married for
But
quite a while.
not your whole life, though.
Not my whole life. No, I did not grow up on grandma's pies. And my mom always made an apple crisp. I don't know. I just love the crisp, the granola-y crisp kind of stuff. But I made a cheesecake, like apple crisp cheesecake. That was amazing. And I'm not sure which recipe it is. So when I get a kitchen with a little more space, I'll have to try to find it and experiment to make it again.
All right, we're gonna wing it. We're gonna wing it a little bit.
I think that's fine.
There's a lot of extra thoughts in here. I'm gonna miss probably, which is a bummer.
That's all right.
But last night I started looking at our soap because I usually try to look at it the day before, and I was just exhausted. I was like, my brain can't think anymore.
A long weekend. Back into the school.
And so I was like, I'm struggling. So this morning I got up early, and then I started having all these thoughts, and then now I'm running out of time because there's so much we could talk about in our segment. It's simple on the surface, but there's some really good things in there. So yeah. Yeah, sis said, you see that pumpkin pies with whipped cream. Yeah, that's the way to do it, sis. Absolutely.
Especially if it's real whipped cream. I don't do Cool Whip.
Yeah. Amanda says she's excited about the apple stuff. Yeah. I'm more apple than pumpkin. Like I'll eat a pumpkin pie. Now as I get older, the texture's kind of weird. It feels kind of slimy and weird. But when I was a kid, it's like it.
What's weird though is I won't like search it out, but I like a sweet potato pie, but I don't like pumpkin pie. Sweet potato pie has the same texture, similar-ish flavor once you get all the spices and sugar and stuff in there. But sweet potatoes way better.
I'm also one of those weirdos who likes.
Good morning, Jill.
Yeah, people talk about.
Good morning, Tammy.
Not everybody, but people talk about squash. I like squash. My grandma's squash was good because my grandma's squash was.
Eat your mom's squash.
No, I said my grandma's squash. I didn't say my mom's squash.
No.
My grandma's squash was very sweet. It was almost like a dessert.
Now I make an amazing sweet potato casserole.
Yeah, it's good.
We
should make some today.
Not really on our
I don't know. Like I feel like for me, like Darlene's sweet potato thing is pretty incredible.
It's pretty much dessert. Good morning, Kelly. Good morning,
And you are
Karen.
saying so yourself.
I am saying so myself. I'm okay when
if I do say so
I'm
myself.
okay when your brother doesn't eat any because he's not sure if he'll like it. I'm like, that's fine. I'll take it home. Like I have no problem taking the whole dish home.
Yeah, I don't like it when we have those family things and people like discover those things, and I'm like, man, they're gonna eat it all. Like Darlene makes a great apple crisp too. Like it's just different, and then people like we used to have it every year, and then nobody's eating. I'm like, yes, we can take it home. And then my family ate some one day, and they're like,
Sometimes
now it's gone.
in the fall when they have apples on sale, because we always do at home games at LCS.
Morning Barb.
We always do. They call it fifth quarter. So after the game, the players and families and other students and whatever, we go into the cafeteria and we have like this hangout. Usually it's a celebration because they win a lot, but usually last year we had a few losses more than normal. But so there's been times when I made apple crisp and everybody's like, is that Darlene's apple crisp? I shouldn't say everybody, like Brian and Casey.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, let's jump in. It's 8:13.
Yes, we better get going.
We're in Exodus. And before we get to our reading this morning, I want to just go back to yesterday. Pastor Mark and Megan did a great job. I kind of caught pieces of it a little bit yesterday. Then today, I just kind of scrubbed through it a little bit, the parts I didn't get the rest of it. And in our story, if you're following with us, I know many of you are. Yesterday, they went, before this, Moses, the burning bush experience, God tells him to go. Pastor Matt talked about, even that whole experience where, Moses is kind of like, man, I don't know. I'm not a good speaker, blah, blah, blah. And God's like, hey, I got you. You can make all the excuses you want. Your brother is already on his way. I'm going to use you, right? And so Pastor Matt covered that on Tuesday, excuse me. Yesterday, Pastor Mark, we get to the story here in Exodus 5. They go and God gave them all those things to do, and Pharaoh's like, yeah, so what? And he's like, I'm not letting your people go, and not only am I not going to let your people go, I'm going to double their workload. And he tells the officials, he's like, don't give them any straw. They have to make all the same amount of bricks with we're not going to help them out, and they meet the quotas. And so they do that, and it's not good, right? The foreman, like it's what's crazy is you think about this, their own people, right? There are a lot of people, Israelites, who were empowered to run the slaves, and so they, like foremans, and so it was their own people, having the whip and enslave their own people to get this done. And so, so you read the rest of that story. I was kind of scrubbing through to see how much Megan and Martin talked about it yesterday, and they kind of led to it a little bit. But if you read beyond that in Exodus, they get to this point in the story, right? So I'm trying to help you guys to get this set up. So they're going through, they're like, hey, we're not going to go easy on them. We're going to work them harder now. And so these foremans, who were Israelite foremans, right, who had to run these people, like see that what's going on. This is like, we can't keep up with the quotas. Like we're not getting strong anymore. And they go to Pharaoh and like, hey, Pharaoh, we gotta slow this down. And he is like, no, like you're just being lazy. And if you don't do this, there's going to be, you're going to pay for this, like basically, like, you're being lazy, people. I don't want to hear about it. You're just trying to get out of this thing. Like, do what I told you to do, or it's going to be the sword. And so in Exodus 5, verse 20, 21, these foremen just up to Pharaoh, and they got a tongue lashing, right? They got like, no, like, there's no grace, there's no mercy. They walk out, and it says this in verse 20 and 21. It says, as they left Pharaoh's court, they were confronted with Moses and Aaron, they confronted Moses and Aaron, who were waiting outside for them. The foreman said to them, may the Lord judge and punish you for making us stink before Pharaoh and his officials. You have put a sword into their hands, an excuse to kill us. I thought about that before we get to today's reading, because I think there's some things we're going to discover in this. But the first thing is this: following God isn't easy. Following God isn't easy. I'm thinking about Moses and the whole story. We'll get the whole picture here in the next couple of days, of course. God calls him. He has this burning bush experience, right? It's like, wow, I'm in the presence of God. I remove your sandals because where you're standing is holy, right? It's holy ground. the book, he's in the very presence of God for the first time. And what's cool is he gets to have that experiences throughout most of his life. And he's in the presence of God. God calls him to this thing that he doesn't feel equipped to do. He doesn't feel like he's worthy of that calling. Yeah, and he even makes all the excuses like we read about. And God's like, no, I'm sending you. You're gonna go. And he goes, right? He's faithful. He's obedient. He goes to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's like, I'm not having that. And not only now is Pharaoh not like instantly dissuaded by the signs that he does, but he's like, I'm going to press your people even more. So not only is Pharaoh not on his side, his own people that he's trying to liberate, that God's called him to, are now also looking at Moses and saying, why did you come here? Like, you've done this, you've made our workload harder. Like, you did this to us, right? And it's like, so following God isn't easy at times. I think about in our personal lives that even when you have those burning bush moments, when sometimes when God's called us to do things, they can be tough. They can be very difficult. They can be heavy. And so you see it, even taking a toll. If you go the next couple of verses down, in Exodus 5:22, verse 23, it says, Moses went back to the Lord and protested, why have you brought all this trouble on your own people? Why did you send me? Right? Like, God, like, I told you I couldn't do this. I didn't feel good about this, but yet you kind of gave me a pep talk and kind of a little like, you got to go, Moses. Like, I'll help you. I'm going to send your brother. I do it, and it didn't work. And now even my own
Now I made
people,
it worse.
yeah, now it's worse. Like, these people, like, not only that, I made it worse, and now my own people are opposed to me. Um, why did you send me? And and it's like, I don't know about you, but there's been times in my life I'm like, God, like, like, there's been times in ministry where I was like, can I just go work a regular job? Can I just go put shopping carts at Walmart? Like, I can go, I know where they go. I can stick them in there. I'll be nice. Me and Pastor Steve. Many of you know Pastor Steve. He used to be the youth pastor. He was my youth pastor at Bethany. We were with Pastor Steve and Melissa about 9.5 years in Brooklyn. They planted a church there, and there would be sometimes those would be those days where I would be like in the sound booth, and his office right behind the sound booth, and he'd be like, Walmart's hiring. He would just say it. I'd be like, let's just go, man. Like I'll be the greeter one day, you be the cart guy. We'll rotate. Like we'll be on top of it. Yeah, that was always our joke, because there's a personal cost to following the Lord. There's a personal cost in obedience, and it's not always easy. I think about this verse that many of us probably know, James 1:2. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles come of any kind, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider an opportunity for great joy. Right? Those are things. Something like those verses, like, they are true. Right? When we get the full perspective, when we get in something that seems so heavy, then all right, God, there's something that's happening through all this. Like, but when you're in it, those kind of words are like, why? Why am I hearing this right
I'm
now?
not feeling
You
very
know,
joyful right
I'm
now.
sure at that moment in Moses' life, if I would have been like, "Hey, Moses, listen, just consider it joy, man, when you're facing trials of many kinds," he might have just knocked me out. I mean, Moses was probably a tough dude, man. He was a shepherd, and like, I mean, he already killed the dude before that, right? Back in the day, we know that story, but when he did that in his younger days, like, I don't know if Moses was like, you know what, Pastor Eric, you're right. I just need to change my perspective. I need to just be happier about this. It is like, ministry is tough, and sometimes when we hear things like James, it's tough. And I won't read the rest, but we talk about it. I think even last time we did soap. When you go through trials, it's producing things in you. Suffering and endurance and all these things are developing within inside of you. And yeah, we did talk about that last time. And so, but as we're reading that, I wanted to get that picture this morning before we read today's reading, because here's Moses. He's not in a high spot. He's in a low spot right now. It's like, I did what you called me to do. Pharaoh didn't respond the way I hoped he would. He actually did the opposite. He made things worse for our people. Now even my own people that I'm trying to represent resent me, and it's just not going well, and so let's go to our reading today. So we are in Exodus 6, verse 1 through 13. Go ahead.
All right. Then the Lord told Moses, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. When he feels the force of my strong hand, he will let the people go. In fact, he will force them to leave his land. And God said to Moses, I am Yahweh, the Lord. I appeared to Abraham to Isaac and to Jacob as El Shaddai, God Almighty, but I did not reveal my name, Yahweh, to them. And I reaffirmed my covenant with them under its terms. I promised to give them the land of Canaan where they were living as foreigners. You can be sure that I have heard the groans of the people of Israel who are now slaves to the Egyptians, and I am well aware of my covenant with them. Therefore, say to the people of Israel, I am the Lord. I will free you from your oppression and will rescue you from your slavery in Egypt. I will redeem you with a powerful arm and great acts of judgment. I will claim you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God, who has freed you from your oppression in Egypt. I will bring you into the land I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as your very own possession. I am the Lord. So Moses told the people of Israel what the Lord had said, but they refused to listen anymore. They had become too discouraged by the brutality of their slavery. When the Lord said to Moses, Go back to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and tell him to let the people of Israel leave his country. But Lord, Moses objected, my own people won't listen to me anymore. How can I expect Pharaoh to listen? I am such a clumsy speaker. But the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them orders for the Israelites and for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord commanded Moses and Aaron to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt.
Yeah. So, yeah, right. So many things we could break down in that. I'll probably try to be brief this morning. But my main thing is this, right? So following God isn't easy. We're going back to that. Following God isn't easy. It came at a great personal cost, even with Moses. It wasn't. He was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm just a representative of God. He's like, I'm feeling the weight of that. God, why did you send me this? Like God, like this is awful, and then just now what you just read, I'm just gonna break down a couple of things. Right from the beginning there, in the verse 1, then the Lord told Moses, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh, right? He's like, listen, Moses, I know you're probably a little discouraged. I know you were obedient. You did what I said. And, but I want you to see what I'm going to do. Like, remember who's in charge. Like, remember who sent you. I sent you. And so, like, and there's a thread here we'll get to in a second, but it's like, now you will see, and Pharaoh's going to see what I'm going to do, because of his disobedience, because of his hardened heart, and then in verse 2 through 5, you know, I guess my next part, I guess what we're talking about, not only it's hard, there's a personal cost, but the next thing is remember who God is. And I think this next segment here in the verses, God is reminding Moses who he is. He's like, listen, he's like your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he's like, they knew me as El Shaddai, you know me as Yahweh. He's like, I'm God Almighty, and he says, I reaffirmed them my covenant with them, and a promise. This is still the fulfillment. Like what you're doing right now is a promise that I had long before you with them that is still happening today. Like this is it now. Like you are the one that's going to do. You're going to be the fulfillment of what I have established hundreds of years ago. And
I think it's one of the things that I pulled out. Like this is probably a little off track of what where you were going, but I found it interesting that I had never really considered the fact that when Abraham and all of the Israelites, like after obviously Abraham died and stuff, but when they were in Canaan before, they were there as foreigners. Like God had sent Abraham to Canaan and said, hey, this is the land that I'm going to give you. Go ahead and settle here and, you'll flourish and whatever. And they did. He had kids and they, whatever, all of that happened. But they came out of that land and they didn't, that when they came out of that land, like they didn't own any of that land. Like it was not theirs. They were there as foreigners. But God had always said, had said to Abraham back in the beginning, this is the land that I'm going to give you. Like this is going to be your land. And it wasn't until hundreds of years later, after they had been enslaved in Egypt, and now they were a true people rather than just being a family unit. Like now they were like millions of people, that they were able to go back into that land and they were able to conquer it. And now it was their land. Like they were finally able to fulfill that promise of taking hold of what God had given them.
Yeah,
it took a while.
And in that segment too, like first he tells I think he's reaffirming Moses who he is. He's like, listen, the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God Almighty, huh, El Shaddai, Yahweh. That's who I am. That's who you remember who you're talking with. Like that's the God you're talking with. And then then reminds him. He says, I promised to give them the land. Like remember, I gave you a promise. I gave them a promise, and I'm telling you, I'm God, and I'm establishing who I am, and then my covenant. I give him a promise. And he says, you can be sure that I've heard the groans of my people Israel. He's like, listen. He's like, this is who I am. I made this promise. I hear you. I see you. It's a joke sometimes. I don't know if Pastor Matt's on, but like Pastor Matt has this line, and it's funny when you're around people enough, you begin to talk like them and act like them. And I will say that I love that because I love my pastor. I love Pastor Matt. So if I'm picking up on things, Pastor Matt, they're good things. But one of the things that Pastor Matt has lines, and we all, as staff, we all know, and we joke around about sometimes. But like Pastor Matt always says, "Bro," that's his thing. I used to always say brother. I'm old school. My kids,
We still do say.
my kids are like, why do you say brother all the time?
Why do you call that guy a brother? You did it one time at some guy at Walmart. They took your cart or something. You're like, all right, have a good day, brother.
Yeah, I don't know why I say that. I'm old school, right? King James or something. I don't know. But Matt's like bro. So like I say bro all the time. Like, I'm talking Pastor Matt. It's bro. It's bro. And I had some people back in the day, like Brian Penny. We're good friends. We'd say bro a lot. But Pastor Matt says, what against you? He's like, what did I just talk about?
I hear you.
I hear you. I hear you. Like Pastor Matt does that sometimes, and he does that. He's like, I hear you. And so I just when I saw that, that's a reminder of that. I don't know why, but oh yeah, Pastor Matt has this oh yeah thing. But I says, you can be sure that I've heard the groans of my people. He's like, remember who I am. Remember I have a promise, and I do hear you. I hear you. I see you. Like I haven't forgotten about you. Like I know you may be discouraged this moment, but I got you. Like, and he's like, remember.
When he was working on, he was working in the background. We can't always see because here the Israelites they're still in slavery. In fact, they were so much in slavery that like Pharaoh was becoming harder on them. I mean, they had been praying and or groaning. I don't know if they were actually praying. I mean, I don't really know every person what they were doing, but they were groaning and in slavery, and God was working on it. He was hearing them, but they didn't see that right away.
Mm-hmm.
But God heard them, and he was working on his fulfilling his promise to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they had to be patient.
Yeah, and that's a good reminder for us this morning. Like sometimes we want things now. We want things to be the way we think they should go, the way they should happen.
Most of the time, I do.
Most of the time, right? If we're honest, and God's like, I'm doing something. Sometimes there's a process, and I think sometimes it's what we want instead of what He wants, and it's like, God, what do you want? God, I'm going to trust you in this. I think. And if we kind of read into this a little more too, like in verse 7 and 8, he says, I will claim you as my own people. Well, let me go back up. So the last thing he says in verse 5, he says, I am well aware of my covenant with them. He's like, I'm well aware. I love the way it says that in the New Living Translation. He's like, I'm well aware, Moses. Like, I know. I've heard their cries. I've seen the pressure of my people. Like, I know you're feeling it right now. I know you feel like you're carrying the weight of this, but I am God. I am El Shaddai. I am well aware of this. I know it. I feel it. I know what you're going through, but I'm doing something. I have a plan. I haven't forgotten about you. Like Diane says, I'm working something in the background that maybe you don't even understand, Moses, but I'm doing something. And I just feel like some of this morning, as you're hearing that this morning, maybe you're going through something like, you're like, God, I don't know. I don't know the answers. Why is this not happening? I know for us, we're trying to find a house. Like, how can we even find a house yet? And it's like, God, I'm trusting you. God, I'm trusting you're in the process of this. And then verse 7, he says, I will claim you as my own people and I will be your God. Then you will know that I, the Lord your God, has freed you from your oppression in Egypt. I think that's a key there. It wasn't Moses. I think God is establishing something with his people early on. And Pastor Mark and Megan talked about this yesterday because we know the rest of the story. God's going to do incredible things. They're about to walk through a sea here in a minute. God's going to have manna from heaven. God's going to establish this thing like, I am God. This is nothing you're doing by your own might and power. I am doing this for you. I am your God. Because what's going to happen is these people, because we're people, we forget that, right? We forget those moments like, oh, I did this, or God, or the grumbling, complaining. God, why didn't you do this? God, why did you do this?
On a pedestal,
right? And so this moment, Moses could have went and like, wow. I mean, he did what God called him to do, but God's, I think, even doing something not just for his people. He's doing something for Moses. He's establishing like, Moses, like, I'm doing this. God, don't forget me.
It's okay that you stumble over your words. It's
Yeah,
okay, like, because I'm gonna make it happen.
these people are going to know that I freed them from Egypt. Not only the Israelites, but the Egyptians are going to know. It wasn't because of
And the
Moses.
surrounding people.
Everybody's going to know the God did this, the God who loves, the God who cares, the God who made this promise hundreds of years ago. This is the God who did this, not by any man's power, but through God, even working through men. I will free you. And so just remember this morning, like it's God, in those hard times. And he's like, God, I don't know, like, why did you do this? Why are we going through this? Just remember that God hears you, God sees you, God has a plan, God's working something, you know. Doesn't mean that life's easy. We face trials, and it was hard, right? And it's a very real conversation. I don't sometimes we get over spiritualize things, but Moses is still a person, right? Like he's still a human being with thoughts and emotions, and God's like, go back to them again. He's like, God, they already don't want to listen to me. Like, God, like you're saying all that, like it's almost one of those times like, well, easy for you to say you're God. I'm just a guy with a
Well,
stick,
and it's easy for us to like try to get ahead of it because we're like, okay, well, I know that God promised this to me, but it's not quite. It does. I've been waiting a long time. Like, maybe there's something more that I need to do, and sometimes there is.
Mhm.
But when you look at like Abraham, it took him a long time before Sarah got pregnant with Isaac, and they tried to take things into their own hands because they thought, well, technically Sarah's maidservant, if she has a child, it'll be Sarah's child. Like that's the technicality of their culture. And so they're like, well, maybe that's how it's supposed to be done. Like, because Sarah's not giving birth, like she's not being able to carry a child. And so they thought, oh, maybe this is how it's supposed to be done. Like we'll do it because God didn't say specifically not to, and then that has caused a whole lot of problems even now in the Middle East. And so it's hard, but it's important to listen and wait even when we don't see the promise being fulfilled right away.
I love that we end on that too. Moses again in this moment with God. He's like, God, like, listen, Pharaoh ain't listening to me. Now my own people don't want to listen. How am I supposed to go keep doing this? And he brings up his speech again. He's like, I'm a clumsy communicator. Like he's going back to the excuse, and he's like, God's like, no, you're still going to go, and he does. Right. What I love about the story is it wasn't, maybe the things that Moses was saying weren't even faults. Maybe he wasn't a great communicator. Maybe his own abilities he had of these weaknesses, and he's very self aware of that. It wasn't like false humility. Maybe he's really like, man, I really struggle with this. And even in the hardship of what he's going through in all this, to do what God's called him to do, and even when he has like kind of like, oh God, these moments like not disobedience, but it's like, God, really, okay, come on. He's still obedient. He still does what God calls him to do.
Right.
And that's what we're going to see through the story, right? And but I just love that God, through all this, I'm looking at this from a perspective of Moses today, of like he's in a hard time. Things aren't going, but the thing that he thought he was so excited about, the thing that God called him to, the thing that even was miraculous, how this was kind of these miracles that are happening, and yet he feels things aren't going the way that God maybe he thought, the way he thought they're going to go. They didn't go the way he thought they were going to plan. Like he might have thought, I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to do the whole cloak thing, snake thing, and do the whole that whole thing. First, I'm like, you're good, go. Like, hey guys, we're good. Like because that's kind of what it's perceived like go do these signs, and God's going to let people go. And I was like, no, actually, when I did that thing, I did the staff thing, I did the cloak thing, and he's like, no. And then he took my people and enslaved them even harder. Like, boom, double down the workload, and now they hate me too. Like, what in the world? Like, what's going on? And I think this message is, and I'm reading this, is for God's people, but God's doing something with Moses. Like he's reassuring again. He's reassuring him, God, Moses, I'm with you. I'm that same God, and watch what I'm going to do. Like you're the vessel I'm going to work through, but watch what I'm going to do. It's going to be me, and I'm going to do. And Moses even is still kind of like, I don't know. He had to put trust in God and follow that. And so my application today is this. This verse came to mind this morning. John 16:33. This is Jesus speaking. I have told you all this that you may have peace within me. Here on earth you have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. I just want this morning, maybe you're in that season, or maybe you've been in that season, or you're probably at some point you're going to be in that season. You're like, God, like I'm trying to be faithful in what you've called me to, God. I'm trying to do this thing, and I don't see it working out. And actually, it seems like it's getting worse. What it might be, I just want to remind you, remember who God is. Remember who God is. Remember God's promises. Remember that on this earth we do face things. We go through hard times, difficult things, but He's overcome the world, right? And so this morning, I want to encourage you this morning. If that's you, if you know somebody this morning, just encourage them with that word, like, hey, man, think about Moses. Because sometimes I think we can read the story, we don't think about the person of Moses. Like, man, that's crazy. Think about that heavy weight, this heavy burden Moses is carrying through his faithfulness to what God's called him to. And he just needed a little reinsurance from God. And so this morning, I want to give you reinsurance that God hears you, He sees you, He's well aware, and He's faithful. And even when it doesn't feel like it, even when we go through trials, that He is faithful. And
now, big thing though is like Moses had to continue seeking God during this time. Like even though they were going through these trials, even though he was going not sure like how it was going to work, and he was being rejected by Pharaoh, but Moses continued seeking God and continued speaking with God, during that time. Like he didn't just say, "Oh, well, it didn't happen, so I'm going to go back out to the field, and go back out with the sheep, and do my own thing instead, because what God said didn't work out the first time." It's important, while we're in the waiting, or while God's in the process of working and we don't see it working out like we thought it was supposed to work out. It's important to continue to seek after God and be attentive to His speaking to us.
mm-hmm.
Because if Moses had just ignored God speaking to him, I mean, that
might still be there.
Yeah.
Making bricks.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put that thing. I love what Jenny said. Go ahead and put on the little thing. How do you do it? You just touch it.
Yep.
I love what Jenny said here. That's when our reasoning gets ahead of God's knowledge. Yeah. When our reasoning, our thoughts, our ways get ahead of what God's knowledge is, it could be a dangerous place, but we're human, right? We get there. But
well, I didn't realize it did that. They have BSA today. Pastor Megan speaking. 11 o'clock. BSA is Bethany Senior Adults. So if you are, consider yourself a senior. We don't put.
Yeah, if you consider yourself a senior adult, which is different than a young adult, sometimes
middle-aged adult.
Sometimes they're the same. Yeah, what's a middle-aged adult? What are we?
We don't have that group.
We need to come up with something. BMA. Bethany middle-aged adults.
That'd be BMAA.
Midlife adults. Bethany midlife adults. I don't know. Yeah, so if you are in that group,
be sure to come on out. 11 o'clock.
That's today?
Church. Yeah. It'll be in the comments area, right? Is that where they usually meet?
I think. Wait, don't they usually meet on Thursdays? Yeah, today's Thursday.
Today is Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
The week's been messed up.
I thought today was Wednesday all of a sudden.
I thought yesterday was Thursday.
I was so lost. I'm like, is that today or is that tomorrow? Because Thursday. Today's Thursday. Guys, everybody, today's Thursday. And so come on out to the church if you're part of that. They have a great time. Listen, my office is right where they're at. And our senior adults have so much fun. It's a great group. We got to get going, though.
Yeah.
And so anyway, just be encouraged by that today. I know if I had more, I could have probably broke that down a little more, but just an overall, just look at that and just realize that you're not alone in those moments. But God is so good. And so
this was the first time that God mentioned His name, Yahweh. And I was doing some reading, and Yahweh in the Bible, it actually has no vowels. So we put vowels into it just so we know how to pronounce it.
I always wonder why when they do those abbreviated things like on the shirts, like that. I'm like, why come they?
That's why I wore this shirt today, because that was the first time that God.
Why don't they spell it right? That's why.
Yeah, it doesn't have it. So you can. My daughter made this shirt for me.
You can order those shirts.
Yep, you can order them.
Little plug for Darlene. All right, for
Ava. You can get a hold of us though if you don't have it, if you're not connected with Ava on Facebook or Instagram. But yeah.
Why don't you pray us out?
I will. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together to look into your word, Lord, to see the miraculous things that you did in and through your people back in Exodus, Lord. And Lord, I just pray that you would continue to help us to seek after you and to hear your voice, Lord, as you speak to us, and that we would be patient, Lord, during the times of trial, knowing that you hear us and that you see us, Lord. Thank you for loving us so much that you've sent your Son to us. Thank you for loving us so much that you sent us the Holy Spirit to comfort us during some of those trials, Lord. And I just pray that you would help us to keep our eyes focused on you every day, Lord, no matter whether it's a good time or a bad time, Lord. But if we can keep our eyes focused on you, knowing that you are working in the background for our good, and sometimes in the foreground, Lord, that we can see it, and we can give testimony to what you're doing, Lord, just like the Israelites were able to give testimony once they were out of Egypt. And Lord, I just pray blessings over everybody today. Help the BSA to have a great meeting today, and go Cougars. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Hey, we should have prayed like Megan and Mark. They Megan like nuzzled her head into
She
Mark.
does.
They did yesterday. It was cute. We didn't do that. Yeah, like this, like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways, have a great day. Sorry, that got weird.
All right.